Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Please Do Not the Space Cat, written by Thelonious Howe. Marin had an issue. Granted, it wasn't a cataclysmic issue, like a life support going down or an extragalactic threat upon the station he now called home. It was still an issue, a personal issue. An issue with one particular personnel on the station. As he was wandering the main mezzanine of the station, racking his brain for a solution to his problem, he spotted Robert, the human HR representative, sipping a cup of coffee, scrolling through something on his status tape. An opportunity had just presented itself to Marin. His issue lay with a human worker, and here was a human with some intuition into human behavior. Under normal circumstances, Marin was more than amenable to make small talk with a fellow crew. Today, however, he had an issue that was in need of solving. So he began as soon as he slid into the chair adjacent to the stimulant-drinking human.
Robert, it has been brought to my attention that the new crewmate, Carter, seems to be abstaining from many after-shift gatherings and communal events. It was conveyed to me that humans are rather sociable in nature, yet he secludes himself. Is there something wrong with him?
Rob, please, and no, there's nothing wrong with him, he's just a cat guy. Marin's human counterpart replied without looking up. You halflings are basically 4-foot-tall tabbies. Probably takes all of his self-regulation to not run around the station smooshing faces or whatever. With that, Rob downed his last of his coffee. My break's over, but Marin, if you think he's having trouble, just go talk to him yourself. Contrary to any preconceived notions you may have about him, he's actually pretty friendly. While the term smooshing faces implied an act of violence that put Marin a little on edge, he was nonetheless determined to crack the shell of this particularly avoidant being. He was the Hathkin Harmonization and Morale Officer, after all. The continuous and coordinated operation of the two species on the station was his job. That wasn't to say that Carter was lacking in his duties, but for the optimal operation of the station, the crew needed to be more than simple co-workers. They needed familiarity, a bond. So Marin decided to tackle his problem personally, head-on, and he trod off to search for the source of his current conundrum. He wouldn't be hard to find, of course, as he didn't socialize much. So he would like to be at his assigned post, in the cafeteria or in his quarters. Marin gauged that by the time of day, Carter would likely be working. So he decided to make that his first stop, and, as expected, the reclusive Carter was at his assigned terminal, dutifully tapping away at the console before him. As Marin approached the workstation, Carter took notice of him and immediately tensed up, closing his eyes and clenching his fists, muttering something underneath his breath.
Crewmate Carter, my name is Marin, and I am the station's Hathkin Harmonization Officer,
I stated before addressing Carter's body language.
I am sorry, does my presence here offend you? Because there is a matter that we need to discuss.
Carter took a deep breath that seemed to relax him some, before opening his eyes. No offense here, what can I do for you?
I've noticed that you seem to avoid most of the station's interpersonal connectivity events. Well, I would remind you that these are not mandatory. My experience is that they are good for more social species, such as yourself. You seem extra hesitant when members of my own species are to be present in any significant number. Do you take exception to us in any capacity? Do we cause you distress? Have any of the Hathkin here wronged you to some extent?
He was determined to get to the bottom of whatever hang-up the humans seemed to have with interacting with his kind. No, it's a me thing. Mostly I don't really trust myself, especially when there are adult beverages present. Not to pet every last one of you adorable little bastards. We were warned in training that unsolicited touching is a one-way ticket to the brig. You're basically oversized house cats. And my brain just intrusively, and I mean intrusively, thinks Scritch the Space Kitty. Marin had no idea what Scritch was, and as the human had to repress its urges to do such an act, he surmised it might have negative connotations. But he was young and bold and adventurous. Furthermore, he took his duty very seriously. If he could operate as a doorway to get the human to open up, then it would behoove him to try.
Carter, if it would help you integrate better with the non-human crew and actually get you to socialize more, you may scritch me.
Carter stared at him blankly. Are you sure? He asked hesitantly.
Well, is a scritch painful or debilitating?
Marin inquired. Carter shook his head. Well, no, but a lot of sapiens consider it at least a tad bit demeaning, so it is heavily discouraged by the higher-ups. Embarrassment was something that Marin was well prepared to deal with. Thus, the thought of bridging a new connection would be well worth any humiliation he may suffer in the interim. So he simply made a welcoming gesture.
Scritch away, then.
Marin recoiled slightly as the human reached a hand towards him. Having another, larger predator appendage extend in his direction sparked an ancient, long-dormant fear response. But he held firm, and the rewards turned out to be well worth it. Nimble digits worked their way around his scalp, then the small soft nails dislodged dead skin and stubborn dust lingering at the base of his ears. Marin could feel unreachable itches and tension he hadn't realized he'd been holding dissipate into the ether. The sensation that imbued the Hathkin caused him to pin his ears back involuntarily and let out a pleased growl. "No, fucker! Sorry!" the human yelped as his hand immediately relinquished itself from Marin's head.
"Sorry?"
Marin asked as he opened his eyes, taking a moment to recalibrate to reality from the momentary bliss that he'd been graced with.
Sorry for what? That is what you've been shying away from doing? That was incredible."
Well, it's just that when a Terran cat does that with the ears and noise, it generally means that they are not a happy kitty. Carter chuckled, realizing the absurdity of assigning Earth's idiosyncrasies to an alien feline.
"I see. Well, no, for us it means fairly the opposite,"
Marin said as he hoisted himself upon the crate by the human station.
"Say, are you bonded? If you aren't, I know a couple of females that would be absolutely enamored with you and your scritches. Or males, if that's more your thing. I'm not one to judge. Hells, I'm not even into males, but the thought of being able to look forward to that on a daily basis might be enough to tip the scales."
This earned him a snort from the human. "I'm a cat guy, not a furry, my dude. Don't worry, though. If you guys get desperate enough, pretty much every human is capable of doing that, and I'm sure there are enough xenophiles around to meet your needs." An alarm chimed through his console. "Hate to cut this short, but I've got to get back to it," he said, pointing to the screen. At this, Marin let out an affirming chuff and left Carter to his work. As Carter approached his duty station for his next shift, he was met with a rather peculiar sight. Some 3 dozen or so Hathkins of varying ages and colors were crowded around his workstation. Good morning?" A very bewildered Carter greeted the small throng of aliens that seemed to be waiting for him. The gathered body turned to face him, each eyeing him expectantly. Is everything good here?" A somewhat familiar brown and white specimen made its way to the front of the group, a devious glint in his eyes.
"Good morning, Carter."
"Marin, what the fuck is this?"
"It seems that news about your scritches has reached the Hathkin population of the station. Complete mystery as to how this possibly could have happened. Anyways, it looks like you have a plethora of curious volunteers to satiate your urges."
The small alien said, with what could be best described as its own version of a shit-eating grin. "That's all well and good," Carter stated, folding his arms across his chest. "And, as much as I enjoy cat-scratching all day, I still have a job to do. So sorry to disappoint." The last sentence was dripping with sarcasm.
"About that, you have been working so hard that we all banded together and petitioned the station commander to give you a well-deserved break,"
Marin replied in equal measure, holding a data slate towards the human. Carter took the slate with a skeptical look, but upon examination found Marin's statement to be entirely valid, signed and notarized by the station commander. Carter's work rotas had been entirely blocked off for the next 2 days. Dumbfounded, he looked at Marin, whose tail was now rhythmically swaying back and forth. Marin waved a paw, gesturing towards the small assembly,
So, should we just line up or
End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.